Introduction. A cry in the darkness. The air crackled with tension. A young woman, barely out of her teens, found herself trapped in a legal nightmare. Lisl Auman, her name echoed in the hushed whispers of a community grappling with a brutal murder. The crime scene was a tangled mess of violence and fear. Auman, despite not pulling the trigger, was condemned as an accomplice. Her connection to the shadowy world of skinheads cast a long, dark shadow over her. Enter Hunter S. Thompson, the enfant terrible of American journalism. He was a man who thrived on chaos and challenged the status quo. With his trademark gonzo style, Thompson dove headfirst into Auman's case. He saw a miscarriage of justice, a young life ensnared by a system that valued expediency over truth. Thompson's pen became a weapon, his words a rallying cry against the deafening silence that threatened to consume Auman's fate. The story of Lisl Auman is a stark reminder that justice is a fragile thing. It can be twisted, manipulated, and obscured by fear and prejudice. Thompson's relentless pursuit of the truth, his unwavering belief in Auman's innocence, serves as a testament to the power of a single voice to pierce through the darkness. This is a tale of legal paradoxes, of media influence, and the enduring struggle for fairness in a world where the lines between guilt and innocence can blur with alarming ease. Auman's case, thrust into the spotlight by Thompson's unflinching gaze, became a microcosm of the battles fought on the fringes of society. It was a story that resonated far beyond the confines of courtrooms and prison walls. It touched upon the raw nerves of a nation grappling with its own identity, its own struggles with prejudice, and the enduring legacy of social injustice. Shadowed youth Lisl in the skinhead world. Lisl Auman's early life was a study in contrasts. She was a bright, artistic soul, drawn to music and poetry. Yet, she found herself adrift in a world that seemed to offer little solace. The allure of belonging, of finding a tribe that understood her unspoken anxieties, led her down a dangerous path. The skinhead movement, with its aggressive posture and rigid ideology, promised a sense of purpose, a shield against the uncertainties of adolescence. She was drawn into the fringes of this subculture, a world of shaved heads, combat boots, and angry rhetoric. Her association with this group, however, would prove to be a double-edged sword. It offered a sense of belonging, but it also painted a target on her back. The world outside looked upon skinheads with suspicion and fear, their actions often interpreted through the lens of prejudice. Auman's involvement with this group was complex. She was not a hardened ideologue, spewing hate-filled slogans. She was a young woman searching for connection, for a place to belong. But her association with the skinhead movement would cast a long shadow over her life, its implications reverberating through the events that would unfold on a fateful night in November 1997. The choices she made as a teenager, fueled by a desire for acceptance, would have consequences that stretched far beyond the realm of youthful indiscretion. The night of chaos. Chase, shootout, and capture. The crisp night air was shattered by the roar of engines and the screech of tires. A high-speed chase, a desperate flight from authority, unfolded on the darkened streets of Denver. Lisl Auman, along with a group of skinheads, found themselves embroiled in a chaotic scene that would forever alter the course of their lives. The chase, a blur of adrenaline and fear, culminated in a deadly shootout that left one police officer dead. Auman, a passenger in the fleeing vehicle, watched in horror as the event spiraled out of control. She was not the one who fired the fatal shots, but her presence, her association with the group, sealed her fate. The police, their faces grim with the weight of their fallen comrade, closed in on the suspects. Auman, her heart pounding in her chest, was apprehended along with the others. In the aftermath of the shootout, amidst the swirling confusion and the raw grief of a fallen officer, Auman became a focal point of public anger. She was labeled as an accomplice, her connection to the skinhead movement casting a dark pall over her. The media, hungry for a story, painted a picture of a dangerous young woman, a willing participant in the night's violence. But was this an accurate portrayal? Or was Auman simply caught in the undertow of a tragedy she didn't create? The weight of silence. Guilty by association? The courtroom was a stage for a legal drama that would test the very foundations of justice. Lisl Auman, her youthful face etched with a mixture of fear and defiance, stood accused of felony murder. The prosecution, their case built on the premise of accomplice liability, argued that Auman's presence during the fatal shootout made her culpable in the officer's death. Her silence, her refusal to implicate others, was presented as evidence of her guilt. The legal principle of felony murder, with its controversial implications, became the crux of the case. This doctrine allowed for individuals to be charged with murder, even if they did not directly commit the act, as long as they were involved in the underlying felony. In Auman's case, the prosecution argued that her association with the Skinheads during the robbery constituted sufficient grounds for a murder conviction. Auman's defense team countered that she was merely a passenger in the vehicle, a terrified witness to the unfolding tragedy. They emphasized that she did not possess a weapon, nor did she participate in the robbery or the shootout. Her silence, they argued, was not an admission of guilt, but a reflection of her fear and her reluctance to betray those she considered friends. The case, however, hinged on the interpretation of her silence, and the prosecution successfully convinced the jury that it was a sign of complicity. A whirlwind of energy, fueled by a potent cocktail of righteous anger and journalistic fervor, descended upon the Lisl Auman case. Hunter S. Thompson, the literary outlaw, the self-proclaimed gonzo journalist, took up Auman's cause with characteristic zeal. He saw in her case a microcosm of the injustices that plagued the American legal system, a system that often prioritized expediency over truth. Thompson, a man who walked the line between chaos and brilliance, was drawn to stories that exposed the underbelly of society. He saw in Auman's plight a young woman caught in the gears of a system that seemed determined to grind her down. Her silence, her refusal to point fingers, was interpreted as guilt, a convenient narrative that allowed the authorities to secure a conviction. Thompson, however, saw through this facade. He recognized the fear that lay behind Auman's silence, the terror of a young woman facing a system that seemed rigged against her. With his trademark gonzo style, a blend of subjective observation, social critique, and hallucinatory prose, Thompson began to dismantle the narrative surrounding Auman's case. He used his platform, his voice amplified by the megaphone of his celebrity, to challenge the legal paradoxes that underpinned her conviction. He questioned the validity of the felony murder rule, arguing that it allowed for the prosecution of individuals who did not directly participate in the act of killing. Thompson's entry into the fray marked a turning point in the case, injecting a potent dose of skepticism and outrage into the public discourse. Hunter S. Thompson's involvement in the Lisl Auman case was more than just journalistic curiosity. It was a full-throated crusade for justice. He saw in Auman a victim of a system that valued expediency over truth, a system that readily sacrificed individual rights in the pursuit of a conviction. Thompson, with his acerbic wit and unflinching gaze, challenged the legal and social constructs that underpinned Auman's imprisonment. He used his platform to amplify Auman's story, to give voice to a young woman who had been silenced by fear and intimidation. Thompson's articles, published in prominent newspapers and magazines, dissected the legal arguments used against Auman, exposing the flaws in the prosecution's case. He questioned the validity of the felony murder rule, arguing that it allowed for individuals to be convicted of murder, even if they did not directly participate in the act of killing. Thompson's writings were not mere legal analyses, they were passionate pleas for compassion and understanding. He painted a portrait of Auman as a vulnerable young woman, caught in the undertow of a tragedy she did not create. He challenged the public perception of Auman as a hardened skinhead, highlighting her artistic side, her love of poetry and music. Thompson's words resonated with a growing number of people who began to question the fairness of Auman's conviction. His crusade for justice, fueled by his unwavering belief in Auman's innocence, became a rallying cry for those who saw in her case a miscarriage of justice. The tide of public opinion began to turn. Hunter S. Thompson's relentless advocacy, his ability to weave a compelling narrative that challenged the official version of events, had a profound impact on the public's perception of the Lisl Auman case. People began to question the fairness of her conviction, to see beyond the label of skinhead that had been so readily attached to her. Thompson's articles, his interviews, his very presence in the media landscape created a groundswell of support for Auman. Letters poured into newspapers, petitions circulated, and rallies were held demanding a new trial. The public discourse shifted from condemnation to questioning, from a presumption of guilt to a recognition of the legal complexities surrounding Auman's case. The prosecution, once confident in their victory, now faced a growing wave of skepticism. The media, initially complicit in portraying Auman as a dangerous criminal, now began to question the narrative that had been presented. Thompson's influence, his ability to challenge the status quo and expose the flaws in the system, had a ripple effect that extended far beyond the confines of Auman's case. He had tapped into a deep vein of unease within the public consciousness, a sense that the pursuit of justice was not always synonymous with fairness. Section 8. Justice, delayed, not denied. Auman's second chance. The years of legal wrangling, fueled by Hunter S. Thompson's unwavering advocacy and the growing public pressure, culminated in a stunning victory for Lisl Auman. In 2005, Auman was granted a new trial. The court acknowledged that the original trial had been marred by legal errors and that Auman's constitutional rights had been violated. The prosecution's case, once seemingly ironclad, now crumbled under the weight of scrutiny. The new trial was a stark contrast to the first. The prosecution, their arguments now weakened by the passage of time and the changing public perception, struggled to present a convincing case. The defense, emboldened by the support they had garnered, effectively dismantled the prosecution's narrative. They highlighted the flaws in the felony murder rule, emphasizing that Auman's actions did not meet the legal threshold for a murder conviction. The jury, no longer swayed by the fear-mongering tactics of the first trial, deliberated carefully. They considered the evidence, weighed the arguments, and ultimately returned a verdict of not guilty. Lisl Auman, after years of wrongful imprisonment, was finally free. Her release was a testament to the power of perseverance, the impact of a single voice amplified by the chorus of public support, and the enduring belief in the possibility of justice, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Section 9. The Thompson Effect, Media Influence, and the Power of Advocacy. The Lisl Auman case serves as a potent example of the influence of media, particularly when wielded by a figure as unconventional and impactful as Hunter S. Thompson. Thompson's gonzo journalism, with its blend of subjective observation, social critique, and hallucinatory prose, proved to be a powerful tool for challenging the status quo and raising awareness about injustice. Thompson's involvement in the case extended beyond mere reporting. It was a form of active advocacy. He used his platform to amplify Auman's story, to challenge the legal and social constructs that underpinned her conviction. His articles, his interviews, his very presence in the media landscape create a groundswell of support for Auman, forcing the public to confront the uncomfortable realities of a system that could so readily convict an individual based on circumstantial evidence and fear-mongering tactics. The Thompson Effect, as it became known, highlighted the potential of media to act as a catalyst for social change. Thompson's unconventional approach, his willingness to challenge authority and expose hypocrisy, resonated with a generation disillusioned with the status quo. His work on the Auman case demonstrated that journalism could be more than just a passive observer. It could be an active participant in the fight for justice, a powerful tool for holding those in power accountable. Section 10. Beyond the headlines, the unseen scars of the case. The Lisl Auman case, while ultimately culminating in her release and exoneration, left behind a trail of unseen scars. The years of wrongful imprisonment, the constant struggle for justice, took a toll on Auman's mental and emotional well-being. The experience left her with a deep distrust of authority, a lingering fear that the system that had once failed her could easily do so again. The case also exposed the deep-seated prejudices that existed within society, prejudices that readily labeled individuals based on their appearance or associations. Auman's connection to the skinhead movement, however tangential, became a defining characteristic in the eyes of the public and the justice system. This labeling, this rush to judgment, contributed to the miscarriage of justice that she endured. Beyond the individual impact on Auman, the case sparked a broader conversation about the flaws within the legal system. The felony murder rule, with its controversial implications, came under intense scrutiny. The case highlighted the potential for this rule to be used to convict individuals who did not directly participate in the act of killing, raising questions about the fairness and proportionality of such a legal doctrine. Section 11, Conclusion, Echoes of Injustice, Whispers of Hope. The story of Lisl Auman is a stark reminder that justice is a fragile thing, easily swayed by fear, prejudice, and the expediency of a system that prioritizes convictions over truth. Auman's journey, from wrongful imprisonment to eventual exoneration, highlights the power of a single voice, amplified by the chorus of public support, to challenge the status quo and expose the flaws within the legal system. Hunter S. Thompson's involvement in the case, his unwavering advocacy, and his ability to weave a compelling narrative that challenged the official version of events played a pivotal role in Auman's eventual release. His gonzo journalism, with its blend of subjective observation, social critique, and hallucinatory prose, proved to be a powerful tool for raising awareness about injustice and mobilizing public support. The Auman case serves as a testament to the enduring human spirit, the resilience of an individual in the face of overwhelming odds, and the power of collective action to right a wrong. It is a story that echoes with the pain of injustice, but also whispers of hope, reminding us that even in the darkest of times, the pursuit of truth and fairness can prevail, though the journey may be long and arduous.